My mother was born on one of the northern atolls in the Marshall Islands called Ailuk Atoll. And in 1954, she was about 10 years old, and she remembers hearing the blast of the Bravo test, which was the US's largest and first hydrogen bomb test at the time. About a little over 10 years ago, she passed away from stomach cancer, which is a known cancer caused by radiation exposure. The people of Rongelap received direct fallout. Nobody knew what it was, and so people let it touch their skin. Children opened their mouths thinking that it was maybe snow or, certainly no one thought that it was something harmful. But of course, all of that came clear very quickly that this was extremely dangerous radioactive ash that was causing skin burns and hair loss and just a whole host of really scary and horrific impacts. Nearly every Marshallese you speak to has a cancer story in the family. People will continue to experience cancers and other radiation illnesses because radiation stays in the environment. And actually, there is some data to show that low-level radiation, for example, in women, can cross through the reproductive system and be transferred, to the children. So, for example, my mother received some exposure. I believe that there's a chance that I could also develop a radiation-related sickness. After that test took place, we had the Brookhaven lab responsible for evaluating people and health conditions, and treatment was administered. Why is a lab being placed in charge of medical treatment? The literature doesn't suggest that treatment was the priority. The literature actually suggests that it was more understanding what happens to the human body. And this is very much an ethical issue. There are horrific stories of people receiving injections of toxins or chemicals or having body parts extracted for the purposes of doing comparative studies with the people who were exposed. I would have to question whether that was fully informed consent and no compensation. That particular group has never been recognized as eligible under US conditions for any kind of compensation for their contributions and sacrifice. When we signed the Compact of Free Association with the US in 1986, it included in there funding for the settlement of nuclear testing claims through the establishment of a nuclear claims tribunal. The funding given to the tribunal through the compact was $150 million. As the claims started to come in, what the tribunal learned was that the scale of damages was really much higher than anyone had thought. I would say a rough estimate is between 3.5 and 4 billion. There will certainly be additional personal injury claims out there because people will continue to experience cancers and other radiation illnesses because radiation stays in the environment. Now, part of that section in the compact, which is known as Section 177, which was later operationalized in a Section 177 agreement. That agreement included a provision known as changed circumstances, which was the avenue for the Marshall Islands government to go back to the US Congress should there be a need for additional support, primarily financial. So that's what the Marshall Islands government did and submitted its petition in September of 2000. To date, we've never had a response from the US Congress.